Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Infield Report. My name is Isaac alongside my older brother Tyler once again.
Hello.
We had a couple things uh get in our way last week, so we're just going to do a quick recap of Michigan here, but we were doing this right after Pocono, and if you didn't realize, Pocono was a little bit earlier in the day, weather related for the cup race. So helps us get this done, but like I said, we had some things go on last week, but Michigan was Michigan. Uh, it definitely had its entertaining moments, but there were some boring moments throughout the races as well. We only had the Truck Series and the Cup Series up there last weekend. The O'Reilly Series had their first weekend off of the entire season so far, which I think was very well needed for them. They had whatever it was, 14 weeks straight of racing, which is quite a lot, and so, they definitely deserved a week to recover and get things back on track before they were at Pocono this weekend. But the Truck Series, they've had a couple weeks off here and there, so we get to see them take on Michigan, a very high speed 2-mile track. There was a lot of great racing throughout that one. Christopher Bell swept the stages and led a decent chunk of the race. Uh, Didn't lead the most laps, but he led 37 laps out of the 125. Uh, Hometown boy Carson Hocevar led the most. Unfortunately, he didn't lead the very last laps like he wanted to, but he ended up coming home with a third place finish, which, again, for him, I know he wanted the win, but at the end of the day, a third place is still really good, especially at Michigan. Uh, it's kind of hard to beat Corey Heim at this point or Caden Honeycutt. They both are doing their thing with Tricon, so very difficult. And he beat Lane Riggs, finished fourth, and Lane Riggs is the point leader. So again, I would say that's pretty good company to be around right now, especially when you're not a full time truck guy. So that was pretty good. We also had, and I know we gave him a hard time in the last episode, but Cletus actually did finish all of his laps at Michigan. So he was the last truck on the lead lap, but he was on the lead lap. So there's positive momentum for him. And it was at a higher speed track as well. So I think that does help him down the road. Uh, I know, Tyler, we had talked about wanting to see him run a couple more races. Do you think his performance finishing on the lead lap at Michigan maybe warrants him to have another O'Reilly shot at, or, does that help you for your outlook as far as him trying to do the O'Reilly race at Talladega in the fall, or do you still wanna see more out of him before they grant him the approval for that?
I would probably take the rest of this year to get consistent, get the results. This could be a fluke. This could be the start of something. You don't know. What I'm trying to say is he just needs a little bit more time. Yes, that is an improvement, but at the same time, flukes happen as well. I do want to see him get better. I want to see him, if he could just consistently finish on the lead lap and in 20th or better, then I would consider him a ride. But as of right now, I need to see a little bit more.
I gotcha. I mean, I would say fringe, at best, but for sure, I think, his performance at Michigan was decent. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't even call it decent. I would say it was actually good for somebody that is getting into it when they are, and we had a decent conversation about this last week, but or last episode, but he's doing a great job for what he's got. There's been improvement, so I think as long as there's improvement, I would say he's, deserving of it for right now, but, yeah, I mean, he beat out, a couple of Truck Series regulars. Justin Haley kinda had a tough week for Ram. Corey LaJoie as well. Not quite, the days that they wanted, but again, there's not much you can really do. Michigan's kinda tough to battle back from, especially if you just don't have the speed or you get caught up in something, like, it's just difficult to work your way back when you don't have it. So, very, very difficult days for them, but like I said, some guys had really good finishes. Connor Mozak came home in 8th, which I don't know that a lot of people saw coming, but with those Spire trucks, they definitely have some speed, and so, with the young kid, in Mozak, I think he's got a really good shot to continue to improve his stock, and we'll see where he ends up next year. But again, just kind of a good showing for him. Top 10 finish is always a plus when you're not a full time guy. So good to see him putting together some great races. Andres Perez, kind of a rough day for him. Finished back in 19th. Not the best of finishes for him, but things like I said, they're out of your control. You kind of get caught up in some things, and unfortunately, he was involved in some stuff pretty early on, and that kind of affected his arrow a little bit. And there's, at a track like that, again, arrow is pretty key, and so everything is dialed in to the millimeter at the shop. And when you don't have it, you just don't have it, and you can't make those minute little adjustments on pit road. So it's kind of tough. Spencer Boyd, unfortunately, was taken out. I think it was Cole Butcher had a tire go down. He had a left front go down that just sent him straight into the wall. Spencer Boyd, again, he was running up a lane and had nowhere to go. Didn't even see it coming, and he got taken out in that. So very unfortunate day for him. He was running a lap down at that point in time, but again, when you have a freak accident like that, it's not the way you wanted your day to go. But at the end of the day, like, a fairly good run as it was. So, can't really complain about that. Now, Ty Majeski had some issues as well. Uh, he ended up, if I remember correctly, he got loose and spun, backed himself into the wall a little bit. Just another another seesaw, another end of the seesaw. I think we discussed last episode. I think that he was due up for a one on the low side, and I think that's unfortunately what happened. So again, just the racing gods are not in his favor right now. But if he can put together some sort of consistency, he should be okay. But the way that every other week is gone for them, not the best. So very, very tough situation to be in, and it's kinda hard when you're fighting back from that every other week, when you feel like you've got good trucks, you've got good equipment. Matter of fact, you got great equipment because you're at Thor Sport. So, it's not a question of the equipment, it's all about the luck. And, unfortunately, like, he's not the only Ford driver in the entirety of the touring series to have bad luck. If we skip over to the Cup Series at Michigan, you could argue Josh Berry early in the race didn't have the best of luck either, but he ended up rebounding this week, or at Michigan, and having himself a good day. But some of those guys, there's one guy in particular that wishes he could have a different rookie season. Connor Zilich is he's just been roughed up. I mean, and he said it. He goes, "I feel like I can't do anything right." When you're struggling to complete laps, you're struggling to, like, for Michigan, he registered 8 laps completed. Mentality wise, what are you supposed to do with that when you can't complete a stage? let alone 10 laps. I mean, what would your mentality be? Why, like, would you be able to bounce back from that, or is it just kind of one of those things where it's like you just do what you got to do, grind it out?
Well, change out of your lucky underwear. It's not lucky anymore. And eat something different for breakfast. On the more
Yeah,
serious side, sometimes just a little bit different prep. Talk with your team. Hey, what is going on? What is the setup? Am I approaching this in the wrong way? That's how I would look at it is, am I doing anything wrong? And for the past, what, 3 or 4 weeks, him not completing at least 50 laps combined or 100 laps combined, I mean, it, that might be just you, buddy. Sorry to, I have to be honest but fair. Sometimes it's just how you approach it and how you look forward to the race, what's next week. And just like our fridge or trash segment, just throw it in the trash. Tomorrow's a new week.
yeah, and it's got to be difficult too with all the success he had last year in the at the time Xfinity series, where he couldn't lose. It seemed like where you're winning a bunch of races, you're leading a bunch of laps, you're finishing top 5, top 10 almost every week, like, and then going to this where the skill is there, the talent is there, but I would say it's partially the equipment that isn't doing him any favors, but then it's also just crap circumstances. Like, you have to qualify well to be able to get out of the back of the pack. And typically, if you're in the back of the pack or in the middle, you'll get caught up in something, and your car is obviously not going to handle the best. Now, from my understanding, for the last couple of weeks, his cars have not been handling the best. Now, they're not supposed to handle great, but you want to have somewhat of a grip on it, and it just seems like he hasn't. And I don't know where the misses have been, but it seems like there's been a lot of them lately, and it has not done him any favors. So, I mean, they need to figure something out with him because, I mean, I know it's his rookie season, but he's arguably had one of the worst rookie seasons, especially for one of the most hyped up prospects coming into the Cup Series in a long while. So, there's some room, a lot of room to improve. So, we'll see what ends up coming up within the next couple weeks, especially where we've got some road courses where I know he's at his strongest. So, we'll see what kind of cars that Trackhouse can give him. But yeah, Michigan was not his friend. Tyler Reddick also had a terrible day. Well, I won't say terrible day. He got the stage one win, but got wrecked out in stage two. And some of those were again just not. They were just racing deals. You get racing each other hard, and there's really not much you can do other than, like, should you give a little bit? Maybe. It's not the last 10 laps, but also you need to make sure you know, you're fighting for every spot you can. So it's very difficult to pick your battles sometimes, but he's been struggling a little bit by his standards this year anyway. He's been struggling. I believe Michigan was his first DNF of the year. So, all things considered, and he's still in the points lead as of now, so can't really complain, but we'll talk about it here in a minute. But that points gap is shrinking rather quickly for a guy that won 5 out of the first 9 races. So, definitely something to keep an eye on. Brad Keselowski as well. He was also involved in that wreck with Reddick, but again, he hasn't had much luck either. he's another Ford driver that just can't catch a break. So many things have not gone his way, and he's been towards the back or, in just the wrong spots, and he's gotten collected in things that have not necessarily been his fault. So he's one of those guys I want to see improve. RFK has done really well this year, and they've got the equipment, but again, it's all up to circumstances and where he's at, and it's been very tough. There was a very, very scary incident that we did see. It was middle of stage 3, and Chase Elliott and Christopher Bell were battling pretty hard, and I think Chase sent it in a little deep, and in his words, he said he felt like he was getting loose, so he was committed to spinning out, and when he had committed to spinning out, he was gonna try to take it inside the track, but his car snapped outside, and it collected Christopher Bell, and Christopher Bell had one of the hardest hits I've ever seen. It registered at 63 Gs, I think, which is, like, the 5th hardest ever recorded in terms of G forces. So, not a light hit by any means, and they had to red flag it to repair the wall and the safer barrier. So, that's how you know it was a rough hit as well. But, I mean, immediately, Chase got out of the car and went up to go see Christopher Bell and make sure he was okay, and, I mean, I don't blame him for that. That was a very, very hard hit for both of them, and, it turns out so Christopher Bell was released from the care center a little bit later than what he typically would have been because they were doing some additional testing and imaging, I would imagine, and he did end up fracturing his left wrist. In subsequent interviews over the course of, this past weekend here at Pocono, he did say, like, he kinda knew it immediately because he went to go unclip some things and couldn't grip anything with his left hand. So the way that he described how it broke, he said it was underneath the steering wheel and had gotten jammed up in there. I mean, obviously, again, you sim race, but, like, is that kinda common, like, for your hand placement on the steering wheel for it to be underneath the steering wheel like that in any way, or was that just, like, a weird position for him to be in, or how does that sorta thing work?
I think he didn't have enough time to take his hands off the wheel, so he was just naturally trying to turn it back to the left after being kicked to the right. And yeah, you want to pull your hands away from the wheel because you know it's going to be a hard hit, but at the same time, your first instinct is to hold onto the wheel and correct. So that was unfortunately what happened. So I'm glad he's okay. I'm glad the wall did its thing. They don't call it a silly acronym called safer barrier for no reason. So
No kidding.
so all in all, sure NASCAR's gonna. It sounds like it's on display right now, but NASCAR might want to take a look at that and the SMT data and everything, and maybe teach the drivers take your hands off the wheel, just let it hit the wall. I mean, he was in the middle of the track anyway, so he thought, oh, maybe kind of turn it to the left to kind of soften the blow a little bit. And by the time you think to take your hands away, you're already spinning, going, what just happened?
Yeah. It was definitely one of those impacts where it makes you very thankful for the advances in safety that we've had over the course of time, and so it was good to see him get out and walk away, as scary as it was, and like I said, he was able to walk away from that, and there was kinda some speculation when he left the track, he was not available to the media, so people were worried about his head concussion-like symptoms, but he said he didn't have any brain fog or anything like that, everything was crystal clear, he could remember everything, so Good on him for that. Like I applaud all the JGR employees for making that car as safe as it was, making sure that all that foam was surrounding his head, and the Hans device for doing its thing, and the fact that he only had a fractured wrist and a bruised foot says a lot. So I'm very, very thankful for that. We did have the beginning of a little bit of history going on, um, where Denny Denny tied Kyle Busch in wins, and that was a pretty cool thing to see. So, yeah, it was a really cool moment post race. It was really cool getting to see the tribute that Denny did for Kyle. It was really, really awesome to see the hat and the flag, the 1 and the 8. Obviously, I know it's not ever gonna be for sale. I would buy it in a heartbeat if I could, but I think Denny made a comment and said that Monday he started trying super hard to figure out who owned what, who, could they make this happen? Because he said there was the potential that they could win at Michigan. So he wanted to get this done in time for that. And they made it happen. It was very, very well done, very, very classy. And for Denny to tie Kyle Busch in wins, for them being teammates for as long as they were, I thought was really, really cool. And it was it wasn't necessarily the most entertaining of races by any means, but it was still a great way to for Denny to get win number 63 that I know a lot of people have been talking about that he may or may not get there. And so it was one step, or it is one step closer for him to get closer to the goal of, getting, well, his ultimate goal is to get as many wins as possible, obviously, but that was just another win for him that he was looking forward to, and it was really cool to see him get that, especially in a back-to-back win situation. And so it was interesting. I think it was back to back from the back both times, because at Nashville he jumped the start. Michigan, he I think he had to start from the back due to an unapproved adjustment. I think they had something go on in practice or qualifying, something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he had to start from the back in back-to-back weeks and still ended up winning. So, got to give major props to him for that. Some really great runs from a lot of guys. Suarez got himself another top 10. He's been a guy that we've been talking about quite a bit as somebody that can do very well, especially in that Spire equipment. I think Trackhouse equipment might have been holding him back. Not to keep bashing on Trackhouse, but I think Suarez is definitely showing his talent at a different team. So they're they might be regretting letting him go a little bit, but in that stable, what are you going to do when you have SVG, Chastain, Suarez, and Zilich waiting in the wings? They had to let him go, but that's a whole other topic. But Joey ended up finishing in a top 10 spot, which was kind of surprising with the way that his year has gone. They have rebounded a little bit, so it's good to see them finally getting back on track. Is it going to be an even year Joey Mickey Mouse championship? I don't know. But right now, the way he's turning things around, you never know what can happen. I'm not going to say too much on that because I don't want this to come back and bite me later, but anything's possible. Again, you had a lot of guys that had some great runs. Both legacy cars were running well all throughout the day as well at Michigan. So it was good to see those, especially some of the Michigan guys coming back home and doing as well as they did. Hocevar got himself a top 5 finish. Like I said, Eric Jones, another Michigan guy coming in second. So very, very close to winning it. He's come close a couple times, just hasn't been able to get the job done. But good to see him again running as well as he did. Bubba in third, great finish for him as well. He's been doing much better. And another surprise was Cole Custer coming in. What did I say it was 12th, and he qualified 15th to start. So that team has also started to turn things around a little bit. This with them being with Chevy now after being with Ford for a while. So finally finding their way in that Chevy camp, not having much of an alliance with anybody, but just being there and grinding away until they can get something, and they found something right now. So good to see them improving as well. But again, Michigan just kind of being one of those races where there was some action here and there, but again, glad to see some of those hard hits. Love to see everybody walking away from those and somewhat safe. I mean, more safe than what they would have been 20, 25 years ago for sure. But great to see everybody come out of Michigan okay. And we had, like I said, some good racing there. Pocono, the Pocono weekend. I think the news got started off fairly early in the weekend that the Cup race was going to be moved up 2 hours due to impending weather. So everybody was anticipating an earlier start on Sunday. On Saturday, it was, I don't even know that we got the race started before the chaos began. Um, Jesse Love took out Corey Day, which was factually incorrect. I just wanted to be sarcastic there, but Corey Day was up towards the front. He started in 11th, tried to make turn one. Unfortunately, dug it in too deep, slid up the track, got loose, came down the track on the Long Pond straightaway, and right in front of Jesse Love. I think the broadcast showed it, and Love could kind of see it coming, but he had like no time to react. And so he ended up smacking him right with his nose. I think they said he punched a hole in the radiator, which obviously not good, and could not get his day going either. Corey Day sounded very frustrated after that accident, and he said, it feels like they haven't been able to do much with their cars because he's just wrecking loose right away. As a young kid, I know you've got to make those adjustments as you go, and you've got to learn to manage it early so that you can then like just like w- try to run it out to the first caution or the first stage end or first pit stop, whichever of those options comes first, and just try to salvage what you can. And unfortunately, like I said, he just dug it in way too deep, spun himself out and couldn't save it. Took a pretty hard hit to the inside wall, but walked away from it okay. So it was good to see him get out of that car as well. And officially did not even complete a lap. So that was kind of a rough way for him to start. Then we had another very early incident as well. It was right after that, basically, where it was on a restart and another hard hit from Joey Gase and Nathan Bird. They took some hits to the inside wall, and Natalie Decker was racing for a whole 17 laps before her engine gave out. Um, Not a good look for her at all. Just she seemed frustrated that she couldn't get anything going either. Again, I don't know whether or not she is, you know, I don't want to say fit to race right now because I'm obviously not her. I don't know what her mentality is, but she said she only wants to do O'Reilly series from now on. And unfortunately, the equipment she is in that 53 car, didn't help her at all. So 17 out of 100 laps, not a good look, but those things, those gremlins can pop up with anybody. So we're not going to judge her too hard on that. Um, there was a couple of other incidents where you had guys getting into each other. Kyle Sieg couldn't seem to catch a break either. Neither of those green light cars could seem to catch a break. None of those three, actually, between Kyle Sieg, Patrick Emmerling, and Ryan Sieg, they got caught all got caught up in something throughout the race. Good news is at least Ryan Sieg finished the race, but they all kind of had tough days throughout. Uh, Nick Sanchez in a new ride. He's in the 87 now. He took over and is running some races, which took away from Austin Green a little bit. And it would have been Austin Green's first full time season with them. So, kind of unfortunate to see him get, I don't want to say pushed out a little bit, but kind of pushed out for Nick Sanchez. But, somebody's got to give way for something. And unfortunately, there was a seat there with some pretty decent equipment so far this season. So, I think it'll be interesting to see what Nick Sanchez can do in that 87 car. He did bring it home 23rd on the lead lap, so pretty solid finish for him. We'll just have to see what he can continue to do. But again, just a unfortunate situation for Austin Green. But other than that, like I said, everybody else was kind of where we thought. Um, Allgaier getting his fifth win on the year, and this was after a couple weeks ago we had brought up that there was some news that came out about Allgaier potentially retiring, or he brought it up about he thought about retirement. And when he's got 5 wins and is doing as well as he is, and after this week, NASCAR did announce he is officially locked into the chase after 17 races. So Junior made a comment. Dale Jr. made a comment. Maybe he's better than we thought he was, which everybody knew he was good. So how much better can he be? I don't know, but he was he was lighting it up on fire all day. It seemed like he just kind of waited out Brent Cruz and Sam Mayer and Austin Hill and let them kind of battle it out. And then he just kind of said, "You know what? I'll go from here," which he did, and drove right on by to the lead. And I will say, Pocono does not always create the most entertaining racing, but with the O'Reilly series, something happened this week that there was a lot of movement going on. Throughout the pack, there was great battles for the lead towards the end of the stages, in particular, obviously because everybody's pushing it, but throughout the course of the race too. I mean, there was a lot of battles for position, and it was pretty entertaining to see. Uh, from your vantage point, what did you think of the on track product from the O'Reilly series versus what it typically can be?
Well, after they stopped wrecking each other after, I don't know, 6 or 7 laps or a couple hours of just, doing their thing, it turned out to be really, really good. There's a couple of long stints that we got to see the product play out, and until the last 10 laps or the last hour, if you want to call it that, it was entertaining. The package that they brought was decent. I do wish to see more of it. I wish the Cup Series had something similar or similar product outcome, but that's, you know, that might be a topic for a hot topic for maybe an episode we can do later on.
For sure, for sure. And they they were racing each other really hard, uh, and they were pushing it. Some guys were willing to trade some paint, and it was really fun to see them battle it out and fight each other for position. Taylor Gray got a stage win and he was looking pretty solid throughout the day. Just couldn't put it together towards the end. Brent Cruz, like I said, he was towards the front all day. He didn't necessarily lead the most laps, but he was one of the best cars over the course of the entire day. Thus, why he finished in second. I mean, regardless, he had a top two, top three car, and just on speed alone. I think, unfortunately, he had just used up a lot of his stuff too soon towards the end of the run, and that's where Allgaier was able to kind of save some things for late. And those last restarts, I mean, Allgaier put it together like a professional, and well, I don't even want to say like a professional, like the veteran that he is, knew how to time things up, knew how to get the runs off the corner into the onto the straightaways, and he did his thing and came away with the win, and it was very entertaining. Can't complain about the product, like you said, besides the last hour or 10 laps. It was at that point almost unbearable to wait through the red flag. But either way, some great results. Harrison Burton finished 11th. I know he hasn't had the best of seasons, but he's definitely had some decent results in the last couple of weeks, and 11th definitely will help his point situation moving forward. Uh, Parker Retzlaff in that Viking Motorsport camp. I know we've talked about him quite a bit this season. He finished 15th, got himself some stage points. He's working his way up the board as well as far as points go on the chase cut line. So we'll go over those points here in just a moment. But a lot of these guys turned in some pretty good points days. Like I said, the one that really hurt was Corey Day getting involved in that early accident, getting 1 point when you're running or when you're sitting in third in the points really is going to have a tough impact down the road. But that's when you hope your competitors also have kind of a rough day, so it doesn't look as bad. But Anthony Alfredo, the other Viking Motorsport guy, great run for him as well. Finished sixth. You had a couple of part timers here and there. Carson Quapple getting back in the car for Junior Motorsports in the nine, had himself a 10th place finish. They give Junior Motorsports has fast cars all day, every day, but then they put a guy like Carson Quapple in who hasn't been in a minute, and he goes out and finishes 10th. So very disappointing to see him. The the way that he kind of got shafted into a part time role, but this is definitely showing the garage if Junior Motorsports doesn't hang on to him, which I don't think is I think he's gonna be, retained, but he's still got talent. So this is, I think, just improvement for him, and hopefully next year he can get himself a solid ride. But great showing for him, and like I said, that O'Reilly race was very entertaining. The Cup race, on the other hand, was was not. It had its moments again, restarts mainly, but for the most part, it was just kinda lackluster. I mean, there was a lack of updates from me throughout the race because there wasn't really much to talk about, which is kind of a shame. I mean, I wanna see Pocono as a track that is entertaining to watch, and when you get going on these long runs, I mean, fuel mileage is like or your fuel window is like 40 to 45 laps, so you can run the whole first stage because it was 30 laps, and then you basically split the second stage in half, and then you split the third stage in half. Everybody's kinda running similar strategies. Now, at the end, things got a little different, and we'll dive into that as well, but, um, it was it was very meh, I'll say that much. We did have some action early, uh, Brad Keselowski getting caught up in another accident yet again, not the way he wants to have his days end. I think this is his 3rd straight DNF. Not a good look for him. On the bright side for him, he was able to get to the Amazon Prime post-race desk and actually change shirts to be looking somewhat dapper for his guest spot. So he had joked about it post race. He said, "You know, I wish I was still sitting up here in my fire suit, but things go the way that they go." But very, very unfortunate for him. Casey Mears this was not a scheduled race for him. He's trying to get to 500 career starts in the Cup Series, and again, this one I don't think was initially on the list, but he came in and was running fairly decently, in the back, and then had a loose wheel, broken wheel, and that tore apart his race car enough where that ended his day, but not the finish he wanted. They're kind of kind of a lackluster day for a lot of these guys. Joey Logano back on the downward again, finishing way back in 34th. Daniel Dye ran the Cup race today. Believe this is his second Cup race. He finished 29th, but uh, good news for Connor Zilic. He actually did rebound and he finished all 160 laps. I believe this was his first complete race in like 5 weeks. So definitely needed to get that under his belt. Actual seat time and not just sitting and watching from the pit box or the RV. But yeah, it was tough to watch some of these guys run today. But Todd Gilliland, of all guys, got a stage win in stage two. I did not have that one on my bingo card, but it's Pocono, I guess. It's not quite a Talladega or a Daytona as far as a super speedway type thing, but I wouldn't have guessed that we were going to have a Todd Gilliland stage win. But here we are. Uh, we had some history again with Denny. It was his third straight win, the first time he's done so in his career. He is the third or fourth driver in Cup Series history to win three in a row from the pole in 3 consecutive weeks. So that was some history. He also has the most wins at Pocono out of anybody. He has won now 8 times. And how fitting, he won his eighth race to pass number 8, Kyle Busch, in career wins. Denny now has 64. And Denny now sits, what is it, ninth all time, I believe, or eighth all time in Cup Series wins. So good on Denny. Pocono, I listened to his post race, and he said, Pocono is one of those tracks where number one, it was his first win, but he said if when he first came to Pocono, he was going to follow Mark Martin, and he followed him for the first 6 laps, and then he passed him, and he said, "Well, I think I got the hang of it." And as the saying goes, the rest is history. And he got his first Cup win at Pocono, and he now has his record-setting 64th career win, at Pocono. And it was another Denny win. I mean, it was another. I'll put it this way: it was another Denny Pocono win, and they all kind of, like he said, they all kind of go the same. I mean, would you is that a valid statement to make, or am I just generalizing his win?
I th I think that's par for the course, minus the one that got stripped from him, but
Yeah,
he's very good at the track. We also have to recognize that his first 2 wins were at Pocono, and he swept them that year, I believe, in 2006? Question mark. I
I
I have to
believe
double check.
2006.
Yeah, so he swept both of them, and they were only like a couple months apart. So that's a feat. Then to have 8 on the trot. I mean, yeah, he's very good at the track. He's very dominant, and goes out, dominates, and says, "This is my home. This is my turf." stay away.
Yeah, and it's not like he is somewhat local. I mean, Pocono's probably 6 hours from the Richmond area where he's from, but it's a track that he definitely knows well, and, you know, he's definitely got the hang of it, and, yeah, it was 2006 he swept Pocono, and he he knows the track well, and he says he kinda runs it the same, like, it's almost like he's got the track figured out, which go figure that if you run it how many times you should and you've won it 8, technically 9 times as he said, but he's still got the flag. Um, you know, I would imagine that after a certain point, it becomes almost impossible not to win. You only beat yourself at that point. So, it was good to see Denny again kind of come back to a track where he's very comfortable and get a win. I also want to shout out the Legacy boys again. John Hunter finished fourth, Eric Jones sixth. I believe that was the best combined finish for Legacy since they were Richard Petty Motorsports, if I'm not mistaken. Fact check me in the comments if that's incorrect, but they definitely have found some speed the last couple of weeks. I actually picked Eric Jones to win the week just because the way that those guys have been running. All the Toyotas in general have a lot of speed, but I thought that they could not necessarily steal one, but I thought they could pick up a win. But no, they still had fantastic runs throughout the day. William Byron was very fairly quiet throughout the day, but he came home with a third place finish to kind of break up uh, the Toyota train up towards the front. Kyle Larson, another one that has had a lot of success at Pocono, not necessarily in the results column, but just throughout the course of the race. Throughout the course of the races that he's run, typically has success and actually compiled it into a fifth place finish today. So good for him. It was kind of everybody where you thought. Christopher Bell had a fantastic run going on one hand, one arm, however you want to call it. I thought he potentially had the win in him. He ran an off strategy and was trying to conserve fuel late. And unfortunately, I believe it was a lap and a half or 2 laps short on fuel. Denny was catching him rather quickly. And with as much as he needed to save while trying to keep pace, it was just impossible for him to keep the lead. So it kind of sucked to see that, but it would have been really cool to see Bell win a race on one arm, one hand. It would have been super cool, but unfortunately, that gamble ended up costing him. They dropped back to 26th, but they said at that point, like he was in 20th at the time when he decided not to pit and try to save fuel. So what do they have to lose at this point? Which fair enough. So I got to applaud him for trying. Unfortunately, there are no Joey Logano in trying to save fuel, but they tried. But it was, a pretty average Pocono race for the most part. I will say NASCAR did the right thing in moving the race up 2 hours because I believe it was getting towards the middle or three-quarter point of the post race show. They reported some sprinkles, so good on NASCAR for moving it up. That's the one good thing about it not being on linear television is they don't have the time constraint to work within. They still had the sunset clock to work with, but they didn't have the network TV schedule to worry about. So that's a positive if you want to look at the NASCAR being on Prime and on streaming is the fact that they don't have to worry about a TV block to fit in. So they handled that very well, and I feel like everybody enjoyed it. It was a sellout crowd. The energy looked electric all weekend. So definitely a place I want to get to just for the atmosphere alone. But it looked like it was a ton of fun. And like I said, definitely energy wise looked great. Race, not so much, but congrats to Denny on his win.
Well, we all know the winner gets the glory at the end of the day, but not every story ends in victory lane. Some performances deserve to be on the fridge, others you'd rather kick to the curb. Welcome to Fridge or Trash. So, in lieu of last week, life hit us. We're not going to do Fridge or Trash for Michigan, but we're going to move on to Pocono. So, for your Pocono pick, who was your refrigerator for O'Reilly series?
It I don't know. I don't want to have to keep saying the same drivers because I need to give some love to some others. It's very difficult, but I'm gonna go with two, and I'll tell you why. Brent Cruz is gonna be my number one because again, he's got a lot of talent, he's got a lot of skill. I think it's just gonna be for him to get his first career win, which I believe is coming in the next couple of weeks. Note it. Um, Tag me at freezing cold takes if this is not true. By the end of August, I imagine he's gonna have his first win. I know it's kind of broad, but end of August, mark it down. Um, he's got the talent, all the talent in the world. I think for him, it's going to be like I said earlier, lining it up, saving it to the end, using what he has at the right moments. That being said, second place finish, still great. Fantastic finish for him. He's got really fast cars that JGR gives him. So that's, I mean, valid there. Number two, I want to give it to Carson Quapple. Now, again, I touched on him earlier again, where he's part time this year, so he's not running a full schedule. But with him running in some of these other series, still getting some seat time, still getting some experience under his belt, it's going to really help him in the long run here, especially getting to race against other guys, other drivers that in these late models and everything else that might rough you up a little bit more. Learning how to control that in the O'Reilly series, I think, is key, and I think he's definitely learning and picking and choosing his battles. So he's definitely improved in my book, and I think he's on the up and up as well. I want to see him get another full time season with whether it be Junior Motorsports or somebody else. Who is your refrigerator driver for the O'Reilly series?
I'm going to go with 2.5. I'll get to the half in a second. But
All right.
Harrison Burton had another great finish. He's on the up and up, and I'm kind of watching him a little bit closer than I have before because you see the Burton brothers or the Burton cousins kind of down there, 15th, 20th, just kind of pedaling around. And I see this H. Burton. I'm like, oh, what are you doing up there, buddy? And he's up there more consistently, so I'm going to give him his praises. And Anthony Alfredo is living up to Clint Boyer's uh, nickname for him, Fast Pasta. I'm glad to see him back up there, finishing well, not being in the mid 20s anymore, at least for this week. So,
Yeah.
in my half,
And
go ahead.
I was gonna say, and Viking Motorsports in general this season has taken a massive leap forward. So whatever they're doing, whatever they've found in both of those cars, they need to keep that momentum going.
Absolutely. So, my half driver, when you look at it on one way, he had a trash day. But I'm going to put him in the other side of the coin here. He had a fantastic day to hang on the fridge. Sammy Smith. He had the contact, I believe it was lap one, and all day worked on it, made some changes, adapted, and I know they had a couple of restarts here and there, but he finished on the lead lap. And what was it, 15th? After all that's
19.
been 19th, after everything that's been through, minus half the field wrecking in the last 10 laps. I'm going to hang his performance on the fridge today. Yes, he The saying I say a lot is if you're going to make a mistake, make it on lap one because you have the rest of the race to, or the rest of the uh, event to make up for it, to erase that deficit. And I say, with what he was dealt with, that's a fridge performance, even though he came in 19th.
That's what I was gonna try to argue last week or last episode with some of our picks, and it's like, well, no, not really, because it kind of defeats the purpose. But that one, I'll validate. I'll say deserved to putting on the fridge. If we switch over to the cup race, do you have any fridge performance that you want to shout out?
Well, if I don't get rid of my notes here, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna give it to the Legacy boys, Jones and Nemechek. A lot of times you see them 15th to 25th, just kind of pedaling around there. Eric Jones, just squeaking out a great performance here and there. John Hunter Nemechek can kind of give you sparks in the pan, but then you see him down in 15th and 20th, and it's like, well, there goes a good day kind of wasted. But
Yeah,
today they came in with the top four positions, or the
they were fourth and sixth.
fourth and sixth, or the top six. That's great. And the funny thing is they both scored 41 points today.
Yeah, which is kind of hysterical that they both did that. But the ever since Legacy announced that they had more investors lined up, more celebrity investors that they were going to unveil throughout the course of the year. It's almost like some of that money has started kicking in, or some of that R&D has started kicking in at just the right time for them. So it's good to see them kicking it up another gear and actually performing where the hype was when they first transitioned to Legacy, when Jimmy transitioned into ownership. So it's good to see them um, finally performing as well as what I thought they would. So if I had to pick eh, it's kind of tough to pick a fridge driver for the week because I was gonna go with the Legacy boys, but I'm gonna actually switch it. I'm gonna go with another smaller team, but well, I'll call them smaller. But RFK is not known for being a small team, but they're feisty. They had some issues in qualifying, but Chris Buescher definitely turned things around. He had some issues, like I said, in qualifying and stuff like that. I know Brad had some engine issues, and according to somebody on Twitter, he Brad would have gotten the provisional pole at Watkins Glen with his qualifying time, but Chris Buescher, on the other hand, turned things around and was able to qualify very well to start with, and then just keep that momentum building throughout the day, and finished in seventh. He's definitely on a good a good swing of his momentum right now. I think they're hitting their stride. I know Priest didn't finish all that well. He finished in 28th, and then obviously Brad crashed out, but or wrecked out. I don't want to say crashed out because that's a different term. But RFK definitely has the right ingredients. I think it's all about luck for them, and they either have one or two hit on good luck, and then the other one is just on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. And unfortunately, owner Brad has not been on the great end of things lately, but Busher for sure was on the good end of things today. Scored a couple stage points and had a great points day overall for him. So definitely looking forward to seeing what he can do going into this summer stretch, especially with a couple road courses coming up. That's going to be a little bit interesting too, to see where Busher and Priest can maneuver their way through the point situation. Brad, I'm a little worried about, but Busher, not so much, especially after his performance at Watkins Glen last year. I'm very excited to see what he can do on these road courses coming up. But do you have a driver on the opposite end of the spectrum, on the trash end that you want to unfortunately shout out or point to?
For the O'Reilly series, it was kinda hard to pick. Uh, Normally, our rule is try not to kick anybody while they're down, while they wreck, but half the field wrecks, so we kinda have to dip into that. Uh, he was having a great he was having a pretty decent season, finishing well, but this week was just horrid. Ryan Sieg just couldn't keep it out of the wall. People kept bumping into him. It just couldn't stay out of trouble all day. And I'm not trying to
Yeah,
cherry pick, but we've been having him as a fridge driver for a while, and he just had a horrible week this week. So he's my sort of trash shout out this week for O'Reilly.
yeah. It's kind of I was gonna put Ryan Sieg out there, but again, you said it's kind of tough, and I have to agree with you because another one I have to pick is William Sawalich. Again, another one that couldn't keep himself out of the wall, couldn't keep himself out of people's way sometimes, and I mean, Pocono is a tricky track, so for a young guy like him, and even for Sieg, that he's a veteran, he's been around a while, but it's a tough track. I mean, you're racing three different tracks basically. If you go based off of the banking and the corners, but again, Sawal, it's just rough day overall for him, and one that I know he wants to forget very quickly, so he can move on. But yeah, just very tough day for him. Keeping the coin on the negative foot, is there a trash performance in the Cup Series you unfortunately have to put out there?
This was also kind of tough because everyone is starting to. I try not to look at the average too much, but when you're trying to track everyone, the one that probably fell below his average the hardest was Hocevar. Normally he's up there, Pocono, Michigan, these faster tracks, kind of his wheelhouse, and he just wasn't there this week. I don't think he was involved in any accident or anything, so I don't want to say he fits the bill this week, but just where was he? Where he at? Where you been? You missed the party. What's going on?
I know he's stuck at Berlin. That's where he's at, where he supposedly rage quit, which he denied, by the way. But um, yeah, he was just kind of there. Um, I don't want to kick anybody while they're down. Um, the other one I would probably have to put out there is Bubba. I mean, he not necessarily known for being great at Pocono by any means, but with what Reddick was able to put together, I mean, granted, Riley Herbst wasn't too far off the pace of Bubba either, but um, just not his best performance of the year, not one I know he's proud of. Things could have definitely gone much better. Pit stops could have gone much better for him. Uh, Adjustments didn't help as much as what they needed to, and I just don't think the setup was completely there this week. But again, not a week I know he wanted. It doesn't help his point situation much, especially since he's floating right around that cut line. But he's road courses coming up are going to be difficult for him. I know he's improved at them, but it's gonna prove interesting how this whole thing shakes out. Uh, but I would probably have to put Bubba as my uh, trash driver of the week, just based on what I know he was capable of. But we can jump over to since I did mention the cut line points uh, for the chase, we'll hop over to the truck points really quickly. These points that are listed over here are going to be points to the cut line. So it's not their overall points, but it's how many points they're up on the cut line. The cut line for the truck series is 10th place. The top 10 drivers make it in on points. So you have Jake Garcia right there is your cutoff driver. Uh, Corey Heim and Corey LaJoy are both ineligible. So we wrote ineligible on there for you. But Stuart Friesen is down 9 on the cut line. Jake Garcia is up 9. So is Daniel Hemrick. Tyler Ankram's up 14 right now. Grant Enfinger's under 22. So the summer stretch, every point does matter. Every position does matter. Stage points. It's going to be very interesting to see how these guys decide to race each other and how they decide to use their strategy to their advantage or disadvantage to try to make up some points on the cut line. But it's going to get really interesting, especially since there's not very many races left for really anybody. Um, the Truck Series just had race number 12, and the um, the chase starts at Bristol in September. So the cutoff race is race number 18. So there's only 6 races left for the Truck Series. So I would definitely keep an eye on everybody from Ankrum to Hemrick, Garcia, Friesen, Enfinger, Butterbean, if he's got some decent races, can squeak his way in. Ty Majeski and Ben Rhodes, they're on the fringe of like if they have another bad performance or two, they could drop even further. So definitely keep an eye on those guys for sure to see where they end up falling. So definitely going to get interesting really quickly. The O'Reilly series is a little bit different. It's a lot closer between a lot more guys, but then you also have NASCAR announcing that Allgaier is officially locked into the chase. He's up 413 points on the cut line, which is an absurd amount. I didn't even know it was possible to be up that much on the cut line, but hey, Allgaier's doing what he does, winning 5 races on the year and just being consistently good. So he's way up there. Um, the cut line, like I said, is between quite a few guys. The 12th place is your cutoff. So I'll even go with like ninth place. Sam Mayer is up 30 on the cut line. Retzloff is plus 17. Sawalich is plus 16. Brent Cruz is plus 3. Now, this is where it gets interesting because he's only up 3 right now. Taylor Gray is only 3 below. Raja is only minus 8. So again, every position matters, and it's going to be very interesting. Ryan Sieg, who had himself kind of a rough day, he's now minus 37 on the cut line. So somebody else to kind of keep an eye on as we continue to move forward with the summer is how these guys handle that summer stretch, and whether or not you have a couple of these guys fall off a little bit, whether something happens to them or not, that's to be seen. But like I said, we had Pocono was race number 17 for the O'Reilly series, and they have a total of 24 races in the regular season, so that leaves 7 left. So, again, anything is possible. Don't want to rule anything out. I would even say, Carson Quapple, if he's him and Austin Hill, if they have a couple bad weeks, they can slip back quite a bit to that cut line. So keep an eye on them. But it's going to get real close. So summer is going to be uh, it's going to be worth tuning in for, not just for the in-season tournament that we'll preview a little bit next week, but also for all these points. So definitely keep an eye open for those. The Cup Series is also very interesting around that cut line. We have Reddick way up at the top, but his lead is now only 19 points over Denny. So Denny has made up like 90 points or over 100 points in the last 5 races. So definitely keep an eye on that. The cut line is very close right now between about 6 drivers, 5 drivers. SVG is +6 on the cut line. Eric Jones and Austin Cindric are basically +0. Brad is -4, and Joey is -21 points to the cut line. I would put Preece and McDowell kind of on the fringe right there as well at -21. Or I'm sorry, at -33 and 49 respectively for those two. A very surprising one that's way out right now is Ross Chastain. He's -61 to the cut line. It's not impossible for him to get back in it. It's just going to take a lot of good luck on his end and not so good luck on his competitors' parts. So again, we'll keep you updated every week as far as these. Definitely check the socials. If we don't have an episode out that week, I'll have these point standings posted the day after the cup race, and um, you'll be able to track points as the weeks progress. And yeah, it's been, like I said, a very interesting week, 2 weeks actually, since we didn't have an episode last week. But one bit of quick news that I'll throw in there real quick because I haven't mentioned it. Josh Berry will not be returning to the Wood Brothers 21 car in 2027. Quick speculation: who do you think fills that 21 seat next year?
I have a couple of wants, and I have a couple of realistic possibilities.
All
Cole
right, so we'll
Custer,
start off with.
Cole
Go ahead. I
Custer
was going
kind
to
of,
say
Cole Custer kind of comes to mind for it. I know he's tied to Haas, but knowing he's a Ford guy and has been in the past, I can see him slipping back into it. There was a big rumor going around. Who was it that everyone thought it was? But that was
Jesse
untrue.
Love.
Yeah, Jesse Love is not going there anytime soon. And I'll be honest, I was surprised on the responses to the fake news. Oh, that's career suicide, or that's career end, or career ends right before it starts. And it's like, really? Jesse Love's
Very
better
positive
than
way to look at
that. Oh, Wood Brothers is not that bad. Sure, they're not a top tier team, but it's not like they announced like Rick Ware Racing or anything for Jesse Love. But I don't know, I got
That would be
opinions on
fun.
that. But Cole Custer does come to mind. Austin Hill is a sort of a possibility, but I know he's an RCR man through and through for now. So the, it's a little too early to speculate. Who knows? We could probably get a curveball here in the next couple of months or couple of weeks. So who knows?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to watch how the seats kind of fill in, especially that 21 seat with it being a Penske affiliate. Whether they, I mean, there's really not a whole lot of Ford guys in the pipeline because the O'Reilly series doesn't have a full time car, and then trucks are kind of the trucks. I mean, I don't know that they have anybody that's ready quite yet in the truck series, unless they want to bring up like a Ben Rhodes or a Majeski. But um, it'll be interesting to see who they have in mind. Uh, but the rumors of like Gregson going to RCR uh, are pretty strong. But I would think maybe he could slip back into the Ford camp, maybe make his way over there. I don't know if he's too rough of a personality to fit with the Wood brothers, but that could be one I see. Or like you said, Cole Custer would be a pretty good one, slipping back into the Ford camp as well. So we'll just have to keep our eyes on that and see what news comes of the Wood brothers opening. But for now, we will leave it with some speculation and some rumors on that seat. But thank you guys for listening and tuning in. We will be back next week after the San Diego race, which none of us have been to, none of us have seen, so that's gonna be very interesting to watch. I believe it's over a 3-mile course, about 2 minutes a lap, so it's gonna get very interesting to see that. All 3 series are gonna be out there. It's gonna be super fun. So we'll definitely be tuned into that, and, like I said, it'll be fun to watch. Another street course that nobody's ever been to. Uh, Quick prediction, maybe, possibly, who's coming in second or first to can anybody, even compete with SVG on the street course, or you think it's gonna be SVG through and through?
Well, if Joey gets out of his slump, Joey Logano's pretty good at being the first winner at a track somewhere, so Joey Logano might pull out of a slump. But SVG is a very strong contender, but I think everyone else is starting to get on his level in terms of like road courses, getting better racecraft. We're gonna forget about Watkins Glen. That was a fluke.
Yeah,
But knowing street courses where SVG's coming through, especially with the supercars, which are similar, I think he's going to be in the top two. But
yeah.
it's kind of a toss up. Who knows? Maybe Christopher Bell might pull a. No, I don't have a broken wrist. What are you talking about? And win the whole thing. But on that note, I wouldn't be surprised if uh, uh, he says, "Hey, I'll take a replacement about halfway through, or step away from
The
uh,
event.
the event." So we'll have to see how his wrist is. So, but first and second, at least SVG in one of them.
Fair enough. I'm gonna put, SVG top 5, and then I know this is gonna be a bit probably a bit of a hot take, but I'm gonna put Bowman in there, possibly. We saw what he did at Chicago a couple years ago. He's always been pretty decent at the road courses, so, I'll put him up there, and then, um, surprise pick, not really surprised, I'll put Busher up there just because he's been pretty good at road courses too. So, I'll go with those as my 3 potential winners, but we could look back on this next week and go, "What were we thinking?" But you never know. But,
Hey, we don't have to worry about rain this time. Ha-
that is true. Thank you, San Diego, for being sunny all year round. But,
Watch
no, it
it,
should be a fun
watch it be the only day it rains, and they get all of their yearly rain that day. It's happened.
knowing NASCAR's luck, it's possible. But, no, it should be a fun weekend out in San Diego regardless. Uh, Again, Father's Day weekend coming up as well, so happy early Father's Day to all those fathers, yourself included. Um, we wanna make sure that, everybody's appreciated on Father's Day, and we'll, um, we'll update you guys after the San Diego race, see what's going on with that, and, like I said, you guys can tune in to all the socials, and, we'll have updates throughout the week and weekend, and we will definitely, have a great week, and we'll see y'all next week.